We need to pass a COVID relief bill. I was happy to join a group of 10 senators, 5 Democrats and 5 Republicans. 3 weeks ago, we met for dinner one night, safe social distancing in one of the members' houses, and spent several hours talking about our frustration that we hadn't passed a COVID relief bill since March when we passed the CARES Act. And we know that things have gotten worse in this country, not only in the pandemic, but also in the state of the economy. For some reason, we just couldn't reach an agreement, the two parties. Well, this mixed group of senators, both political parties, had a bold idea: let's try to do it ourselves. So we sat down, and in the course of 3 weeks, I cannot tell you how many hours we spent on the phone, Zoom calls, other conference calls. Calls were even taking place on Thanksgiving Day, talking about what a COVID relief bill might look like. And some of the items we debated long and hard, most of them we agreed on. This last Tuesday, this week, we reported our bill to the United States Senate, to the floor of the Senate, and to the leaders. And we didn't just give them a memo with concepts, we gave them an actual bill that could be introduced today. The bill itself is significant in that it has $748 billion in spending. The areas of spending are fairly predictable. Extending unemployment insurance benefits with $300 a week federal supplement. $300 billion for business loans for those that are struggling to survive. An additional $13 billion for the food stamp program, now known as SNAP, so that people who are relying on that, perhaps in the midst of unemployment, will have enough to eat. $13 billion for our farmers, $25 billion for emergency rental assistance to avoid evictions, $34 billion to hospitals, clinics for help as well. A portion of that set aside for rural hospitals, $16 billion for testing and tracing and the logistics of delivering the vaccine across America, $12 billion for a CDFI project for minority businesses, $5 billion for additional help with mental health counseling, and we know that this pandemic and the economy have taken their toll on the mental health of America. $82 billion for education, $20 billion of that for higher education. School districts and schools, universities too, have spent a lot of money because of COVID-19, and we want to help them get them back on their feet. $10 billion for child care, a critical element for many families. If they can't find child care, many people can't go back to work. We want to give them help. $10 billion for broadband. Expanding broadband became critically important when kids relied on it to continue their education and remote learning. $45 billion for transportation, everything from the airline industry to Amtrak to transit to buses. They've all been hit hard, and we need them to come back with our economy. $10 billion for our Postal Service, and boy, have they worked hard during this pandemic to keep up with the demands. And extensions of opportunities to use CARES money into the next fiscal year, next calendar year, I should say. And there were more. We reached agreement on all of these and came up with a bill that we presented to the leadership on both the House and the Senate, both parties. The good news is they didn't ignore it. They embraced it and started their own negotiations at the very highest levels of leadership in the Congress. Fingers crossed, we may come up with a bill today, COVID relief bill. So from the time of our press conference on Tuesday to the delivery of a product as soon as today is an amazing accomplishment when you consider all the time that we've spent waiting in hopes that we could find that solution. We have made significant progress. Funding the government is basic to our work in Congress, and this COVID relief bill is essential as well. Now, I'm disappointed in our work product as pride and disappointment. The disappointment is the fact that we didn't reach an agreement on state and local government assistance. I favor that strongly, and I hope we turn to that issue as soon as we return in January. Also, there was a question of liability in lawsuits during the time of COVID-19. We offered several alternatives. The Republicans countered with theirs. We never had a meeting of the mind on that issue. I hope that we do return to it at some point, soon. We need to put government spending on a course that makes sense for the next year that we're going to be tackling as soon as January.